Okay, y'all, today I have a different video. I am making sourdough bread and I'm going to teach you how I make my sourdough bread. So first, I start off by measuring everything in grams. I don't know why, but it's just a sourdough thing. I go to about 200 grams. I think I went over, I dumped some out, and it was to 201 grams. From there, you're going to want to add 100 grams of starter. You will know your starter is at its peak when it has doubled in size. Mine started there and then it doubled. So I'm going to do about 100 grams of starter here. And you'll know it's ready when you dump it in the water and it floats. Okay, at this point, you're just going to mix everything. Well, you're going to mix the water in the starter, not everything yet. You're going to mix the water in the starter until you get a milky consistency, like so. You will see. Also, this is a quick little disclaimer. I just started making sourdough about 2 months ago. This is the way that I make it and the way that works for me. If anybody has any tips or anything to make it better or improve my sourdough, please let me know. But this is a pretty foolproof method. I feel like it comes out bomb every time, at least bomb for me and my family. So yeah, I am basically repeating the process, adding another 200 grams of water and 100 grams of starter because I am going to be making cinnamon rolls and a blueberry loaf. Guys, the blueberry loaf is so bomb. You have to make it. It is the best sourdough I've ever had. It's my favorite, and I've made a few different loaves already, and it's just bomb. So I'm just repeating the process, basically the same thing. I am doing about 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter, and then I'm doing about 12 grams of honey. You can adjust the honey to your liking if you want your bread sweeter or if you don't want it as sweet. This is just my preference. I also did melt the butter and then I added the honey just so the honey could have like a good consistency along with the butter and it will mix well. Then I'm going to add about 12 grams of Himalayan salt. You can actually add the salt in your first set of stretch and folds, but I've done that before. I've done it twice. And the first time I remembered and I did do it the first set of stretch and folds. And the second time I forgot to add salt to my chocolate chip bread and I was so sad. So I just have been doing it this way and just adding it as I go because if not, I will forget. So you do what works for you. I will say I feel like adding the salt for your first stretch and folds does make a difference. So if you want to try that, you can go ahead and try it if you'll remember to add it. Then we are going to add 400 grams of King Arthur bread flour. I have tried making sourdough with gluten-free flour and all-purpose flour, but bread flour never fails me. The King Arthur is my favorite, so we're just going to add 400 grams of this. Okay, I'm basically gonna just mix it all up until I get kind of like a shaggy dough, and then I'm going to knead it just a little bit. Also, I'm repeating this the same way with the other loaf or the cinnamon rolls. You can make 2 different loaves if you wanted to. It's the exact same way, but I'm gonna be making cinnamon rolls with the other one. So I'm basically just mixing everything together and repeating the same process, the same steps and everything. Here I am kneading the dough, a professional dough kneader, just kidding. If you have a KitchenAid, I hear that works well too, but I like to do everything by hand. I like to feel the texture. I'm just used to it. And then I'm going to let it sit for an hour before I do the first set of stretch and holds. And I let it sit with a damp towel covered on both of them. Now, after letting it rest for an hour, I'm doing my first set of stretch and folds. You're basically just going to stretch and fold the dough. I like to just go by every corner and do 4 sets of stretch and folds every 30 minutes. This is now my second set of stretch and folds. As I said, you want to do it 4 times every 30 minutes. Although there is a lot of theories on a lot of people saying that you really don't need to do 4 sets of stretch and folds, but it's basically building the gluten in the bread. I don't really know. It's just, this is how I learned. In between, while my dough is resting, I like to clean up. I'm basically cleaning my sourdough jar. I like to just keep things really clean. I try to wipe it around so it doesn't look all dirty and gross. I do like to switch out the jars weekly, and don't dump it in your sink. Please, please, please dump it outside. You're like, dumping it in the sink is not good at all. It might clog your sink pipes or something, from what I've heard, so just be mindful. Okay, it is now the next day and we floured our surface, and now we are taking out the dough. I let mine sit in the fridge overnight. Some people will do 12 hours, 24 hours, 48 hours. The longer you let it sit, the more sourdoughy it will taste. Just an FYI. So I basically just kind of stretch it out and then I roll it out. You could use a dough pin, or is it a dough pin or a dough roller? I don't know. I don't have one, so sometimes I just stretch everything out with my hands and then I'll use a glass cup. Probably not the best way to do it, but it works. So for the cinnamon rolls, I'm using ground cinnamon and then a little bit of cinnamon sugar. I don't like to make them too sweet. Really, I don't like having a lot of refined sugar, so this is like my healthier version of cinnamon rolls, and then I just top them with Greek yogurt. So if you want them sweeter, just add a shit ton more sugar, because I barely added any, but they're still bomb. So I'm just adding everything and mixing it all up. I roll them up, and sometimes I will do it this way and then I'll just cut them, or I'll cut them while they're kind of laying flat and then I'll roll them up. This way is kind of just faster and easier, and I just wanted it to try this way this time, so this is how I did it. Now for the blueberry sourdough loaf. Honestly, I don't think I want to eat a regular sourdough loaf again. The blueberry one is a hitter and it is so good. So I'm basically repeating the same thing. I'm stretching it out, I'm rolling it out with a cup, yada yada yada, you know the drill. I am taking my bread loaf pan and I am buttering it so it doesn't get stuck to the pan. I have never used parchment paper with sourdough bread. I've never needed to. Typically when I do like banana breads or like regular breads, I will need to put parchment paper or it will get stuck even if I butter it or oil it. But with sourdough bread, I never need to. So I am taking my organic blueberries from Costco. They are frozen. I've never have baked sourdough blueberry bread with thawed blueberries. They're always frozen, so this is what works. I just fold it all up and then I roll it kind of into like a burrito shape. After you do that, you're gonna want to let it sit for about 2 hours for it to proof. I was not feeling like waiting for 2 hours, and I don't think I waited that long. I think I only waited 45 minutes. But I recommend you let it double in size while it's in the bread pan. I decided to bake them at the same time, so I preheated my oven to 375. The cinnamon rolls were in there for about 18 to 20 minutes. The bread was probably in there for about an hour and 15 to an hour and 30 minutes. For the bread, I use a thermometer. Don't laugh at me because I use a meat thermometer, but it works. I just make sure the bread is over 200 degrees. When I took it out, it was definitely not ready, so I popped it back in. You will see here that it wasn't ready, but I did pop it back in until it reached 200 degrees, and that is all. Look at how yummy it looks even though it's not done.